Good morning, everyone. Welcome to today's daily. It's November 6th and 2025. And I'm going to show off the kind of a work in progress world that we've got going here. So I've been bringing my dailies from Blender into Unity, and now we can visit them. So if you go check out this world, I'll put a link in the bottom of the description. You will be able to walk around and explore this world yourself. And that's kind of the goal with these dailies, is to continue to build out worlds for people to explore and build out my skills in building those worlds. So very work in progress right now, but we did just do this daily here, this lake. And so this is the daily I'll be going over today. And but I just want to show off how it came out. So we got this kind of woodland area bordered by trees, big lake in the middle, some pretty large lily pads. Everything's got colliders right now, so we can pretty much just walk over absolutely everything. And yeah, I think it's looking pretty good. Slowly, the lighting is incorrect. Like, we kind of got this blown out bluish white lighting. My goal is to have different lighting setups per bubble, because you saw those bubbles. And then, of course, we'll need to set up some occlusion, and there's a lot to do. But I think for now we're making good progress. Yeah, so let's hop into Blender and take a look at what we got. And again, you can play this here. So opening up my lake. So the main thing we've added now is just like this giant bubble here. This is the sky sphere. If I switch to rendered, you can see it's just a very simple gradient. I'd love a little bit more color, but I need to refine that geometry node, because right now we only have color like down here. I would want some more color in the mid horizon and above, but it'll work for now. Now, main object here is this terrain. And pretty much everything is built around this single terrain object. Not using my distribute and shrink wrap currently because it just takes up a little too much time. I need to refine that workflow. But yeah, so you can see here, I can take this object, move it around, make changes to it, and we get a ton of variety, and we can just keep playing with this. And I can make tons of lakes. Oh, and the lake itself is dynamic too. So the actual water updates as we change things. Again, just super, super useful. So we can just keep editing this lake simply and effectively. So how do I do this? So the main thing is that in our terrain up here, we have this one terrain object, and everything is sampling this object. So I think that's kind of the easiest way to work, in my opinion, is just to sample one base object and then separate all these vegetations into their own objects. So let's take a look at the tree line, because I think that's the most visible, and look at our modifier stack here. So pretty straightforward. This join selected collection to geometry. I believe in the Blender 5, there's kind of a standard node for this now. This is my custom one, but if using Blender 5, you can ignore that one. But yeah, so we sample the terrain and bring it into this new object, most importantly using the relative position, so all the position matches, and we're replacing the original object, which is just a little plane in the middle. And then we're using this distribute. I'm going to call this distribute on border. And a lot of my objects here, 5 of them, are using that exact same geometry node. We can change the density. We can change the randomization. So this will bring up the minimum sizing. This will increase the maximum sizing. And then if we just want some different layouts, we can change the seed. And that's the same for this shrub line here, but it is actually looking at the water object that we have, not the terrain as a whole. And the same with the shrubs. The shrubs are actually very similar to tree line. They're looking at the full terrain object and just distributing along it. That's really nice, because one of the main issues I have with making environments is how to make it feel enclosed really quickly. So just using these shrub objects and the trees to block in the environment that the player can walk around feels super effective. Okay. Now the water is a little interesting because we're actually sampling the terrain, and then we're using a very standard geometry node mask modifier to sample this vertex group, the water vertex group, which is simply a switch vertex paint. It's a selection of the bottom here. Might do that a little differently in the future, but for now that's what we're doing because it does lead to some goofiness, like these little gaps here. Not exactly sure the best way to change that just yet, but that's why I'm doing this, because I need to figure this stuff out. So yeah, it is the train object originally, but we mask it, and then we're setting some vertex colors in order to give it a variation. Maybe I'll make it a little bluer, just so it feels a little bit more watery. Yeah, it's nice. And then here, this transform. So this is a very, very simple, just allows us to transform the object as you would. So we scale it to 0, so we get some nice flat surface, and then we just moved it up and down. We could continue to play with that if we really, want to adjust the water level or something. That's all easy to change, and maybe a little bit lower than I had before. Okay. Now, all these objects, we have tucked away into this other components folder. So I've got my trees here. This one, we really could do some better vertex painting on it. Like, for example, boom. We could set those vertex colors, maybe a little bit darker and bluer, so we get some variety. And then we could set the wood color. Super easy. This is exactly what I'm doing while I'm making these trees and stuff. Just simple vertex colors. And I think simplicity is key here. That is just going to make things so much more flexible. Yeah, distributed around the edge. Looks good. We've got the shrubs. Those are distributed around the edge. This one's a little goofy. I don't think I'd ever do this again. It's a bunch of cubes, like subdivided cubes, and then we have a geometry node to extrude the mesh, scale the elements, shade smooth. It's actually sampling the original cubes, so we get this kind of softer fall off. If I turn that off, you'll see what I mean. For the normals. I don't like this object. I don't think I'd do that. Probably get a texture or something. We also have these grass clumps along the edge. And to make those, I actually did kind of stage things in 2 parts. So for a clump, so we're distributing clumps, which are like patches of grass along the edge of the lake. And to make the clumps, we're actually distributing blades on a single object. So I have these grass blades here, right here. And what we do is we take all these and we distribute them onto individual clumps. And so we can make a bunch of variation. We have fine grain control, manual control over each blade of grass, and then we can continue to tweak it. We can change the size of the sample count. You can see that's changing in the background. For grass, I don't think that if our end goal is to get this into Unity, finding ways to do this with a shader or instancing things, probably better. Right now, this is an extremely unoptimized way to do it because all of these objects, all of the trees, all the shrubs, lily pads, etc., currently we're not utilizing any instancing, so we have over 1 million triangles for this whole scene, and that's not good, not ideal, not a huge deal. Like this is like one unoptimized avatar worth of objects. There's really simple materials, so it's not going to chug things, but yeah. And yeah, so we make the grass clumps that way. Take the blades, distribute the blades, take the clumps, distribute the clumps, easy. but it gives you a lot of control, and you can propagate little changes all the way to the end without having to do it manually. Okay. Then for our lily pads here, these are just some manual made. They have a little solidify modifier. We're setting the vertex colors, but they are just a little circle that I just pushed one vertex in on, and I just made some variants too. Nothing complex there. And then we're just using, if I click on the lily pads, we can look at our graph here. We take the geometry, we distribute based on the points, but we're using this here. So this takes the border, the boundary of our mesh, selects it, and then creates a fall off going inward. It's very important to use the evaluate on domain to do that properly, but we blur it, evaluate it, and then we mix it with this noise texture just to show you that in action. So we have these points. You can see where they are in the border. If we sampled the geometry, we could even visualize our fall off here. Boom. So this is what the fall off looks like at the start. Boom. It might be a little hard to see, but the edge is white. And then we blur that attribute, and then we evaluate it on a point basis, which creates a very smooth fall off. And then we're mixing that with this noise texture here, which looks like this. We mix both those together, we get this, and then we get the points. We get the points. Bam. And then we just instance our lily pads on there. So it's important that if you have like a collection of a few objects that you want to distribute, you separate the children and reset their position. If you don't, they're going to be a little offset. And that offsetting will get worse and worse. So don't do that. And then you have to make sure you hit pick instance. Otherwise, it's instancing all three objects in that collection, all three lily pads. And then here, we're just inserting some random rotation. Doesn't really matter. These just a range of rotation values. We're only rotating on the z-axis. Then we plug that into the rotation vector. For the scale, we're doing a full float rather than giving a random vector. We're giving a random float so that it affects all the scale axes together. And just a little range there from 0.2 the size to 1. Get this nice fall off or randomization. And then we're realizing right there. In the future, I will probably be not realizing these, and if I can develop a better exporting workflow, I'll be exporting just like empty information and empty transforms to Unity, and then Unity's going to go, hey, I have this prefab, I'll place it on all these empties, and then we're super optimized on two ways. First is we're using prefabs, which allows for instance geometry, and the prefabs allow for attaching components. So if there were, a bunch of buttons you're placing around your map, and clicking the button should do stuff, or a gun, or I don't know, a trapdoor, things with physics, we can start building up not just a nice system to add meshes to a scene, but a system to imbue those meshes with logic, interactivity. But that's pretty much it. Oh, one final thing. This is a super useful thing, not as many people utilize, but I love it. Here, you can export collections. Let's see this little export arrow here. That's in your collection settings. So I'm using these settings. I'll pause it if you're interested in doing that yourself. The important part is you can just set a destination and add .fbx to the end of whatever your object name is. So lake.fbx. And so now, anytime I've made a bunch of changes, which I've made a decent amount since the start of this video, go here, go over to our lake, look at our lake, looks pretty good, but it's different because we don't have the latest version. So I just go in here, select everything, file, export all collections, save. Bada boom. Now we got our latest version, and it looks pretty good. that's it. All right. Again, this will be up for download for free on Gumroad if you want to see the blend file for building these levels quickly. Eventually, I'll start including Unity packages in, but it's just too much work right now. And you can visit it yourself. So, anyway, thanks for taking a look. See you soon. See you tomorrow. Bye.